Hello, hello, hello. This is Adriane Berg, and this is the Ageless Traveler. And we have a very strange guest today and a very strange interviewer. Who's the strange guest? Well, it's me. And who's the interviewer? Well, it's you. A couple of weeks ago, I asked you guys to ask me questions. In fact, I complained. I said, you didn't take advantage of all the questions you could ask me. And guess what? Well, you started to ask me questions. And if you take a look at the show notes, you'll see exactly how you can continue to do that. And so I picked some of the questions that I thought were really representative of what a lot of people would like to know or things that really interested me. So today we're talking about health, fitness, safety, solo travel, traveling with your grandkids. We're talking about new yoga tourism. Yes, yoga tourism. Where to go for Halloween. And by the way, if you're planning to get married, second time around, third time around, first time around, how do you propose and where do you propose in Tokyo? These are the kind of questions that you asked me about. But the one that really made me smile was this one. I want to take my grandchildren, ages 10 and 15, on a trip, but their parents are actually very wealthy. They've been to a lot of places already. Now, we're from the Midwest. Is there a good place that they'll really enjoy that won't break the bank? The parents are letting me take my grandkids on a 3-day weekend. Well, that is just beautiful. And I really appreciate that this grandparents is thinking of the kids first and when they'll love the experience. And there are some wonderful things that you can do in the Midwest that will wean them from the boring button. The secret, of course, is choosing something with built-in drama and interactivity that they would really like to do. The second hint is let them plan with you. Now, I'm going to give you some picks, and I love these ideas, but the best picks is what they pick and go along with it. It's their trip, and you're there to make them happy so that the next time when you want to travel with them, and as they get older, they will advocate for themselves with mom and dad. No doubt about that. Well, one of the things that I love about Wisconsin is the Dells and the Devil's Lake area. I really have only been there once, but I can't get enough of them. With the stunning bluffs, the rock formations at Devil's Lake State Park, the kind of hiking that feels like you're in a movie. There are water parks if your 10-year-old needs to burn energy. You've got quirky, campy roadside America culture for the 15-year-old. It's really lovely, very Instagrammable. And I don't know if you've heard of my friend, the traveling cheesehead. Well, take a look at some of her work. You'll see that I give you her URLs on the side here on our show notes. She has so many wonderful places in Wisconsin. Now, doesn't have to be Wisconsin. Badlands National Park in South Dakota. Every teenager will look at those formations. They will be really awed. And there's a lot of intergenerational and multi-generational things you can do together in the Badlands. Now, let me tell you one thing about intergenerational versus multi-generational. Now, this is my thing. And in fact, I'm writing about it. I'm writing about it this week for Arkansas that's calling itself the natural state. Intergenerational means that you were really doing something together. The Badlands National Park in South Dakota, you certainly can do things together. Multi-generational is more like you might do on a cruise. There's a lot of different generations traveling together, but they do things separately once they get there. So some of the kids might go to kids' camp, while the adults, they'll go to the hot tub or even the casino. That's multi-generational because they'll get together when they begin the day and when they end the day. But intergenerational is what you really want when you're dealing with a trip that you're planning for your grandkids. Now, if you're a more urban type, one of the great weekends in the Midwest, of course, is Chicago. Between its deep dish pizza, its Art Institute, and my favorite architectural tour at any age, bar none, anywhere in the world, even my wonderful Palm Springs Modernism Week, is the Architecture River Tour in Chicago. It's budget friendly and it is memorable. Now, you want to go spelunking? Mammoth Cave, Kentucky, the world's longest known cave system. Walking through it at any age is humbling, it's spectacular. And of course, as I said, let the kids co-plan. If you want to do something basic and then bring it to them and ask them what they'd like to see, that's wonderful. If you want them to get you started and give you the basic trip, even better. Bon voyage to you and the kids. Now, another question I got was, could not be more different? And that was, what is the future of travel? What do we foresee for travel in the future? And here is the answer, and this is pretty much being set up right now, that it's not going to be about where to eat in Paris, as I usually say. It's not even going to be about sightseeing. It's going to be having personal and meaningful experiences that you could take home. At a recent expo for the hotel design industry in Las Vegas, I asked the folks who attended my particular talk on longevity travel what business they thought they were in. Some said hospitality, some said hotels, said staff training. I said, you're not in any of these businesses. You're in the business of changing habits. The future of travel is what people can take home with them. And the role of the hospitality industry is to design and advise the kinds of trips that will be meaningful, whether it's spa treatments, whether it's a culinary experience, whether it's a spiritual practice, whether it's a dark sky observer, whether it's a paranormal guide. Actually in North Little Rock, I just took a ghost tour, whether it's local history or, as many people are doing today, going to find their roots. It doesn't matter. According to the Global Wellness Institute, the projects that are really being sought after, both by the industry of hospitality and by the people like us, is those that create an enormous difference that lasts. Now, some things are like the digital detox retreats, that's booming. Yoga tourism is steadily growing and is expected to grow. That means people going to learn yoga, to practice yoga, to understand meditation, to really separate from the norm of their life, but not just for a week or 2 weeks or even for 2 months, but to take it home with them. Now, how do they choose those trips? Well, that's why I really am very keen on those of you who are interested in getting people to travel more and in the right way to become coaches. It is a new profession and it is a certification. It's called travel coaching. And if you take a look again in our show notes here today, you will see that we're doing a free webinar for everybody with the Travel Coach Network. So you can learn what it means, how much you can earn from it, whether or not it could supplement your income for travel or anything else you want, and whether it will be life fulfilling. But really, that is the future. The future of travel is personal and meaningful, not just a vacation, so that you rush back to work just like you rushed away from it. And before we take a break, I do want to talk about a particular question that was asked of me that I did not have the answer to. And I told you, we have a battalion, actual battalion of experts that I could call upon if I don't know the answer to your question. So please never, ever hesitate to ask a question. And this is the one that stopped me in my tracks. Here's what one of our listeners wrote. I want the best restaurant in Tokyo to propose to my high school sweetheart after we've been apart for 35 years. Now, that's really cool, I have to say. So I had to call upon the experts that I know. But first, I want to say congratulations. Whatever brought you back together after all this time is a great love story. I wish I could tell that love story. I don't have the details. I only know that you guys are going to have a fabulous future together, particularly because you're planners. So, did you know that Tokyo, and I have to admit to you, I did not know this, that Tokyo has more Michelin stars than restaurants in Paris do? They actually have the best of the best. Now, I know everything is subjective, but for a proposal, I would go with the ones that have the big names. Exceptional food, extraordinary ambiance, and of course, intimacy. And you don't want a table surrounded by 20 other people making a lot of noise, babies crying. I mean, that's fine, but not quite what you're looking for. Now, everybody, particularly those who've been to Japan and those of you who are Japanese, please do not laugh at my pronunciation. Kaseki restaurants, the Japanese multi-course tradition. It's essentially culinary theater. Every course is a tiny work of art. It's very slow. It's not unheard of that you'll be sitting there for 4 hours. That happens very frequently when there's a group. For two, it's going to be at least 2.5 hours. Yeah. Now, some of these places, like Kitchisen and Ryujin, are names that come up repeatedly from my serious foodie friends, travelers and travel writers that I asked. Now, for something with a view, a moment when you can point to the city lights and say what you need to say on a high floor restaurant, the beautiful Tokyo hotels make a terrific backdrop. And my advice too is that if none of these work for you, speak to the hotel concierges. They are destination specialists. They know Tokyo. They know where this should take place. And by the way, give us an update. And before we take a little break, I want to talk a bit about the use of a concierge. A lot of our questions can be answered by explaining what a concierge really is supposed to do. Now, often you'll go to a hotel and they don't have a concierge, but if you're in a 4 or 5-star hotel, they generally do. And a concierge is trained. They are actually very established, and they have one and only one focus, and that is to get you to the places in the right way for you, right places in the right way. So, of course, we've been talking about restaurants, and those are places. If you're interested in theater, if you're interested in getting theater tickets, if there are concerts and they're sold out already, if you don't know where to go or what's playing in a particular city or location, if you're interested in going to the circus, if there's a kind of food that you would like to taste, if there's a tour you want to go on. Now, sure, today we definitely have our phones, we've got our apps. If you go to agelesstraveler.com, you can actually pre-book almost anything right on your phone. But sometimes you get to a place and you really don't know where you want to go. But you do know who you are, and you do know what you like. And that's where the concierge comes in. You meet with them, you sit with them, you let them know in all honesty who you are, and sometimes even how much you want to spend. And they will be the ones to point you in the right direction. They can't be overused. They love it. That is their job. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to talk about, when we speak about job, these new jobs, the idea of becoming a travel coach. So don't you guys go anywhere. I'll be right back with more of your very interesting questions. Now, for some weeks, I have been posting on our social media and also putting in Travel Tuesday, our weekly newsletter, invitations for a free webinar taking place this June on June 10th. Now, please do take a look at our show notes accompanying this episode of The Ageless Traveler, because you'll see again how to register for free. This may be something that's just right for you, particularly if you're about to retire, already retired, many years in retirement, or you're anyone who would like to make a little bit of extra money and you love to travel and you like to meet with people. I would say a travel coach works for you if those three things make sense to you. That you like to travel and you understand travel. Doesn't mean you have traveled. No, just have to like it. If you have traveled, even better. That you like to help people because it is a supporting career. There's no doubt about that. You are a professional advisor of people, so that's important. You have some time to make some extra money. If those three sound interesting to you, please listen, because this is a true certification, like being a wellness coach, like being a retirement coach or a business coach. And if you happen to already be one of those three, this is a great add-on for all of you. And if you're a financial planner, you might not be interested in coaching, but you might be interested in meeting coaches because so many of your clients are saving money and planning to retire in order to travel. Will they be able to do it the right and most fulfilling way? Well, yes, if they have a travel coach. You'll hear all about it, and particularly you'll hear from me how to make an extra specialty out of it for helping people who are over the age of 50, 60, 70, even 80 travel and never stop traveling. And now we're back with this very different, little peculiar show because you interviewed me. You listened to my call to ask questions, and you did ask those questions. We are answering them one at a time in this particular unique Ageless Traveler episode. Now, this one really came from the heart and really touched me. And it's the kind of question that I think a lot of my listeners have. It goes like this. I'm a widow. I'm ready to travel. I live for art and performance. I'm a volunteer, and I want to take a month-long road trip. Do you have a safe itinerary? And it turned out that this person, because I did go back and ask where she would be starting from, is starting from Michigan. I'm so glad that you are really traveling. Now, I did a really important podcast, and you'll see in our show notes how to listen to that podcast. And it was by a volunteer who was in the Arizona airport, which won the best airport in America. And while he was volunteering there, showing people to their gates, helping them navigate difficult airport, somebody was crying. And he went over to her, and I'll never forget this because I didn't expect him to say this, but it's on our podcast. She was crying, and he asked her, is there something wrong? And she said, with my travel or with my life? And he said, okay, tell me about it. Well, she was going to Cancun, as I recall, and she was getting emails and texts from her husband's friends, and some of hers too. She was widowed about 3 months ago, and now she's going to Cancun. And they were saying to her, how could you do that? How could you travel? And this wonderful volunteer, my guest, said to her, nobody could tell you how to grieve. Nobody has the right to tell you to stay home. And he got her on her way, and all was well. But he never forgot that. And I'll never forget this question. So where do you go? Well, Michigan is really a great, spectacular launching point for a road trip. I was there recently, and I suggest if you haven't been there, you go to Cranbrook, which is a wonderful school, among other things of the arts, where Frank Lloyd Wright, Saarinen, many of the people who made modernism, architecture, and design what it is today taught. So it has itself a wonderful museum. But if you're taking a couple of weeks, of course you want to make the Great Lakes Circuit by heading north through Michigan's wine country. Yes, it does have wine. I must tell you that I did have one bottle of wine from Michigan that had a label that said Michigan, where the wine suffers, but that's another story. The Lilanu Peninsula, the old Mission Peninsula near Traverse City, produces Rieslings and Pinot Noirs, and it's a pretty good, interesting winery. And you know what I think of wine, I think it's worth traveling for. You can do the Chicago Drive. I'm such a big fan. One of the things that I did in Chicago that I've never heard anyone else do is I really looked at the galleries. They have galleries of really important artists like Renoir and Cézanne. And there many of them specialize in etchings and really good reproductions, really good prints, really good lithographs that are worth some money and cost some money, but are worth investing in. And truth be told, at better prices than you might find in LA or New York or London. The Art Institute can fill a couple of days, no doubt about that. I saw the Book of Mormon in Chicago, and I saw it in New York City, and I liked it better in Chicago. So you have Broadway touring productions, you have the Goodman, the Steppenwolf. Chicago's performance calendar is really very good. Take a look at it. have walkable neighborhoods, and it's something that, and of course, you have Second City if you love, and I love comedy. Door County, Wisconsin, Twin Cities, Door County. It's a gem. Again, same kind of things. Very sophisticated galleries, theater at American Players, theater in nearby Spring Green. Very lovely scenery in the Midwest. And then on to Minneapolis, St. Paul, which has a lot more theater. And again, the Guthrie Theater is world class. But I will also say that here, I'm just reminded of the question that we had at the beginning with grandkids. I saw some wonderful children's productions in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I was there once as a speaker, speaking actually to a gerontological society. But of course, as always, I snuck away and I saw some theater, some really good stuff. And I did a podcast on that too, and I'll have in the show notes where to listen to that podcast. Now, you all know about safety for solo travelers, safety men and women. Share your itinerary with someone you trust. Make sure everybody knows where you're going. It's really important. And again, we had a terrific podcast just about protecting yourself as a solo traveler. And you may know that we were privileged in 2024 to win the Journeywoman Solo Travel Wisdom Award. So we know a lot about it. We have many, many podcasts that deal with safety. There's one particular one that you will see that will be in the show notes. Now, frankly, the next question is one I could have asked myself. It turned out to be that somebody is very like-minded with me. And this is what was said from a guy, one of our very few. I have to say, I love the Travel Bros series because I don't think enough men travel, but this one does. I love Halloween. Is there a place I can enjoy trick or treat as an adult alone? I have to tell you, and particularly because this is a man, you sometimes have to be careful. If you love Halloween as much as I do, and I just love to see the kids dress up, I love to see them, particularly in small towns, which have midday Halloween parades and then trick-or-treating at night, and you are a single man hanging out watching Halloween. A finger could be pointed. People could wonder, what are you doing there? I've had that issue in my own mind. Myself, when I've gone, or myself and my husband without a child, I would often thought maybe we should rent someone because I do love to see this pageant and I do love to see how the houses are decorated. But there are certain places that you can go, many of them, of course, that are purpose built for adults. And they work. I will say that there are some particular neighborhoods in LA that are just wonderful, and I'll tell you why. Because people from Disney and Universal Studios tend to live in Burbank. It's near the studios, so they live there, and they are very creative, and they can get their hands on some extraordinary items. So I have seen more displays in people's houses than you could see in Macy's window for Halloween. So that is certainly something you can do. All of the major parks really do a big deal for Halloween, and it's purpose built for adults as well as for children. So that always works if you're near a Disney, Universal, and that's the kind of thing that you want to do, and you want to pay for it because it's never particularly inexpensive to do that. That's one thought. I am a great fan of Halloween in the Northeast, places like Maine and Vermont. I've had probably my very best Halloween personally in Stowe. Beautiful little town, right before the ski season, Halloween. And so they're all geared up for all kinds of tourism, and it's wonderful. But there's a lot more. Of course, probably everybody listening, the first thing they thought about was Salem, Massachusetts. It's such an obvious answer, and it's true. In October, the whole city transforms. They have haunted tours, theatrical performances, historical walks. People are in costumes. People do expect adult tourists to be there. And you'll find a lot of people like me, Halloween enthusiasts. I love that. Halloween enthusiast. And nobody's going to look at you sideways there because it's all Halloween all the time. Now, New Orleans is a place that very few people think about, but the French Quarter does it proud, really does it. Not only with Gothic soul that reaches a fever pitch around Halloween, of voodoo, all kinds of fun stuff, all kinds of dressing up. I mean, they're used to it. because of, Carnival and Mardi Gras, and they do it really well. I've been a child of Sleepy Hollow, New York, for decades of my younger life, and I'll never forget it. I don't think that, for me, it's very nostalgic. I don't think I'll ever be able to reproduce the feeling that I had anywhere else celebrating Halloween uh, as I did in Sleepy Hollow because I was a child when I was there. And they run Halloween events for the whole October. If you've never seen lantern lit tours, there are hundreds and hundreds of them. The Headless Horseman has performances. It's very magical, and it really, again, expects tourism. So it's not like you're hanging around some neighborhood. Now, there are some neighborhoods all over the United States and in many countries that are particularly wonderful, as I mentioned, Burbank, but they are neighborhoods. They're not places of open tourism. So that may be something you would like to avoid. But these other places, boy, a Halloween adventure in any of these, whether it's Salem, New Orleans, or whether it's in Vermont, and in a neighborhood near you where you may have a friend or a child, fantastic. Now, another wonderful Halloween, and I have to pitch this one, I have to say. I like to donate to a particular cause called Eva's Village, and that's in New Jersey. And these are children who do not have costumes for Halloween. They don't have the money, they don't have the candy, and they don't have the people to take them. So if you really want to do something good for Halloween, you can get together with your local food bank, a local charity. You can give some donations so that kids who would ordinarily not have costumes have money for costumes. You can go buy the costumes and bring them. That to me is really celebrating Halloween. How wonderful. And some of those organizations do have trips to bring kids out to go trick or treating, and they need volunteers to go with them. So, boy, to me, couldn't be anything better than that. And nobody will ever look at you sideways when it comes to that, although they will vet you to make sure that you are a responsible adult taking the kids for a good time, not for your own nefarious purposes. So, these organizations are terrific, and you may find them on Match, but it's called volunteermatch.com. If any local organizations are looking for help with children during the Halloween season. Now, don't you guys go anywhere. We'll be right back. I just want to give you a really quick review of all the things that we do for you. It's giving me an opportunity to do this as I am speaking with you. Don't you guys go anywhere. You're going to want to hear this. Not everybody knows all the things that the Ageless Traveler does. It's quite a number of them, and it's free. First of all, of course, we have our weekly, if you don't know it's weekly podcasts. You can listen to them on your cell phone. You can listen to them on your computer and your tablet. Everything can be heard on agelesstraveler.com. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple and iHeartRadio and Public Radio and many, many others. We also have a weekly newsletter. Now that you have to subscribe to, but the subscription is free. How do you do it? Take a look at the show notes. You click. If you go on agelesstraveler.com, there'll be an immediate drop down that asks you to subscribe. So please do subscribe. Everything is free. Also on our website, you will see discounts and tools. Probably the most money you could save is going to Cruises It on our discount and tools page. And you'll see an extraordinary amount of cruises all over the world, every single line that you could think of, with huge discounts and perks and benefits. Another thing that we do for you is ebooks. You will see on our publication page our ebooks. You will also see, of course, many of our Travel Tuesday newsletters and blogs and articles. Again, everything is free. It's all there for you and for the asking. But most important is what we're doing right now, is for you to ask me questions. Why is it so important? I'm not going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell you at the end of this show. So we'll be explaining the importance of you getting your answers to your questions. And now we're back, and I hope that you will take advantage of all those things that I was speaking to you about. We did get a lot of questions. I was not able to answer all of them, but I got a few that actually did surprise me because they didn't have to do with travel per se. They had to do with health and longevity, and everybody knows that I have the genetics of a fruit fly. Everybody knows that most of my relatives checked out way before the age of 60, and everybody knows that I am very grateful. I have a huge attitude of gratitude of being my age and still being around. Simply being around, even more grateful that I'm around and healthy. Knock on wood. And there are things I do. I do learn a lot, and I particularly learned a lot during COVID when I was the executive director for 2 years. It was supposed to be a couple of months, but it ended up being 2 years of the Catalyst Institute for the delay and prevention of age-related diseases. So many people ask me questions about what I do personally. And one of the questions that was asked was whether or not I really believed that being able to stand up without using your hands is a marker of longevity. Now, this person must have read about it somewhere because it is going around that if you can stand up and then sit down on the floor without using your hands, and even more importantly, once you're on the floor, get up from the floor without using your hands, that you will live longer. And the question is that true? And I have to tell you that statistically, it seems to be true, that this is a great mark of longevity. It all started with a study in 2024, which I actually knew a lot about and I've been writing about, European Journal of Preventive Cardiology. The problem is this. Most people today actually statistically die of a heart attack. That's the US way of checking out. And it seems that people who can get up off the floor without using their hands are 6 times less likely to have heart disease. That's a lot, 6 times. And you can actually learn how to do it because it's not just strength. It's really about your balance, your flexibility, your coordination, your body awareness. All these things work together. And it gets me very excited because what it really does is it strengthens your muscles. And that's the test. It also strengthens your backside, your glutes, which is, one of the biggest muscles in your body, are your glute muscles. So these are all needed to get up off the floor without your hands, but they're also really useful for travel, like climbing in and out of a vehicle, when you're on safari, stepping off a boat onto a dock, rising from a low chair in a cafe, perhaps in Lisbon, or sitting cross-legged if you're going to a meditation retreat. So these are all things that challenge your body, and if you could do it, it's wonderful. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to come naturally. You can learn this. Now, I'm right-left dyslexic. That's not the right name for it. There is an actual name for it. It's called directional confusion. And about 5% of the population have it severely. I have it severely. I literally do not know my left from my right. I have to remind myself. So when my brain pathways ask my right side to do something, it will do it. When my brain asks my left side to do something, it stalls. It stalls out. And I had to think about it. It's not paralysis. There's nothing wrong. It's a brain issue, not a body issue, because there's a confusion as to what is left and right. So I'm not as fast. You don't want to do Zumba with me. Let's put it that way. I'll bump right into you. Okay. Or you don't want to do the electric slide with me either, if anybody still does the electric slide. So I learn it. I can actually learn it, and it's harder for me than most people. So if I can learn, it's not just muscular, it's also the neurological synapses I have to work on. It can be done. I can tell you that you can do it. But don't despair, because most people have to touch the ground 3 times to get up from sitting, if they're sitting on the ground. You get points if you can do it with only 2 touches, and points if only 1 touch. I learned that from a yoga instructor. So don't despair if you can't do it all. It actually helps you, and it's a mark of longevity if you only have to use and touch the ground once to get up. All very good. Now, there is a related thing here, though, from the same person, because they're very self-conscious about not being able to do this, and I think they wanted me to say that it wasn't important. But apparently, it does help in determining your longevity. So they wanted to know, how do I fix it? Well, there are some exercises, as I said. It doesn't have to come naturally. They're all about making your glutes stronger. For example, you can lie flat on your back, feet flat on the floor, and as if you're about to do a sit-up, and you cup your hands under your lower glutes, and you did what is basically a back bend. What you're really doing is for 20 or 30 seconds, you're really squeezing. It's an isometric contraction. And because this is so visual, I will be doing for you an article that I'll put on our website to show what that looks like. But I have a trainer who's a genius, in my opinion, and he came up with something that is so easy, so simple, that I can actually describe it in words. You don't even have to see a picture, and you'll understand. All he does is he asks you to stand up straight, and in each hand, you hold a dumbbell, the heaviest that you can. Right? It could be 5 pounds, it could be 10 pounds, it could be 50 pounds, whatever is the heaviest, without you straining your arms. And you're just standing up with the dumbbell in each hand, and your hands are down. Don't lift in any other way. Just bend forward and really contract your butt, and then stand up again, and then bend forward, and then contract your butt again, and then do it again. And he has us do it about 10 times in half an hour, 5 times. So that's about 50 contractions in half an hour with a little bit of rest in between. It really does work. It really strengthens that muscle, and that's a muscle that will help you get up off the floor without using your hands. I have to say that I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I really hope that this continues. So for our last question for today, anyway, this is one that I think is really very important, and maybe I don't talk about this enough. This is the question. I'm worried about what to do if I get injured while I'm traveling. What do you recommend? Well, first of all, I have been injured. I don't think I know anybody who's been to as many countries as I have that has not had some injury at some time or some illness at some time, including particularly COVID. So many people who were avid travelers did contract COVID while they were away. There are many other ways. A friend of mine who's a wonderful photographer was taking pictures in France. He was not paying attention, and he broke his arm. He fell right off a curb. So, it happens. All right. So here are some of the things you have to do. First of all, be prepared. You get your medical records in a digital form. You keep them accessible. You know your blood type. You carry a list of your medications, and make sure that if you have a traveling companion, you know where you're keeping all of this information. Of course, you have your usual health insurance, but there's a lot more than that. When you arrive in any place, any new destination, it is important to know where the hospital is, where the urgent care clinic is. It only takes a minute or two. Every place has a local emergency number. Doesn't matter where you are. There are a few remote places. I have been, in Africa and India that doesn't have such a thing, but they do have what I would call an underground 911. If you tell the right person, they will help you. I actually had that experience in rural Vietnam, where I did need to get to a hospital. And of course, it was not a 911 number, but they did know how to get to the right cab driver who knows how to bring people in an emergency in the village to the right place. And they got me there very quickly with no problem at all, and everything was calm. Now we go back to the hotel concierge. If you happen to be in a 4 or 5-star hotel, go to the concierge. They'll know everything about what to do. If you're not, even whether it's a hostel uh, even if it's a commune that you happen to be in, a retreat, an eco lodge, the people who are the organizers or the operators will know what to do. So mostly it's a mind shift. If you can actually be the person who is the calmer when you're the one with the problem, everything will fall into place. Now, I'm not even discussing here rescue insurance that medevacs you into another country or back home. Of course, if you want to pay for that, that's exactly right. But even with that, you should know, as they say in The Music Man, I love Broadway, you got to know the territory. If you're going somewhere, particularly if it's remote, know who to tell and what to tell them if anything happens. So I wish that I could wave a magic wand and tell you nothing's going to happen. What I can do is it's just common sense. It's all about awareness. We all make slip ups. For those of you who may know, they lost my luggage in January. I was going to the Azores and I was a speaker on a cruise ship and my luggage disappeared and all of my pills were in it. It was the first time ever that I did not carry my pills with me. I was that sure it was going to be fine, and it wasn't fine. And I have to say that I was very happy because Princess Cruises doctors had easily and very inexpensively, it cost me $26 all told, every single kind of medication that I take, because they do have the standard medications on cruise ships. So that's it. Hope it doesn't happen, but I'm glad you asked the question. Now, in one of our breaks, I said how much I wanted you to ask me questions, and I was going to tell you why. And I'm going to end this with that. I have a long history of being a radio personality. That's what it was called in the old days. Today they say an influencer. It is a radio personality, and I just loved it. It was spontaneous. People would call up. I heard their real voices. They asked me a question. I gave them an answer, but more importantly, they were able to take a deeper dive. They were able to ask me more questions. I was able to get more information from them, and the magic really happens. Now, we can do that today on a podcast. And that's why when you take a look at our show notes, you're going to see a way to ask questions by voice. And I will be able to replay that voice right here. I'll also be able to tell you when I'm going to be answering your question. So you can get on the telephone. We can talk, and it'll be a real conversation. And this is what's really important. And I found this out through years. I was on the air like that from 1988 to about 2004. That the questions you have, everyone has. If it matters to you, it matters to everybody. And so I definitely want you to drop me a voice message and hear yourself on the show. I would just love it. It's really so wonderful because it doesn't matter whether or not it's about a place to go or how to go or concern. All of these break down the barriers to lifelong travel, and that's what we're here for, to break down those barriers. So you know what I'm going to say. Never stop traveling.